Thanks for joining us for this panel, which is part of our Career Exploration webinar series. Today's discussion is titled Career Exploration for Girls and Women Sports, and it focuses on the past and experiences and perspectives of women who have professional careers in sports. I'm Dr. Susan Madsen, founding director of the Utah Women in Leadership Project and the Karen Haight Huntsman Endowed Professor of Leadership in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. And I'm the host and will be the panel moderator today. Our career exploration webinars further the mission of the Utah Women in Leadership Project, which is to strengthen the impact of Utah girls and women. First, I'd like to thank our sponsors, the Utah Education Network, the John M. Huntsman School of Business, and USU Extension. To get us started, I would like to introduce each of our three panelists. And after I introduce the first one, I'll ask her, and I'll do the same thing for the others, why she chose to focus her career on sports. So I'll start with Kari Holt Larson. She earned a Bachelor's of Science degree in International Relations and Affairs from BYU and an MBA from the University of Utah. And her first job out of college was in the sports department for the 2002 Olympic Winter Games. She's worked for the Utah Olympic Legacy Foundation and Larry H. Miller Group of Companies. Currently, Carrie is the VP of Community and Special Events with the Utah Jazz. Carrie, why did you choose to focus your career on sports?
Good morning. Thanks, Susan. I was really lucky, actually. I think I've always been a sports fan. Ever since just in high school, I loved watching sports. I loved going to sports, participating at a very, very basic level, never a super athlete, but just always loved watching. And I remember watching, I think it was in '94 when snowboarding was maybe just first introduced into the Olympic Games. And I think in '98 it was finally a competition. And I saw snowboarding. I thought, that's so amazing. I want to be a snowboarder, having zero talent whatsoever. And, thinking at age 20 or whatever that I was going to jump in and someday be an Olympian. But it was just my love of sports, and to be able to have that be my first job out of college working for the Olympic Winter Games was amazing, and being a part of the sports department and just seeing all of the opportunities that were available. So just the fact that I had always been a fan, I didn't think I was going to work in sports specifically, but that being my first opportunity out of college was just amazing. And I've just been really lucky ever since to continue to meet people who have introduced me along my career path to get to where I am today.
Thank you so much. I love that. Sometimes it is your first job out of college that sends you into a certain industry, and that happened to you, and you loved sports anyway. So I think that's great. Thanks so much. So before becoming the head women's basketball coach at Weber State University, Velaida Harris worked as an assistant coach at the Universities of Oregon, Utah, and Rhode Island, where she oversaw many aspects of the programs, including recruiting, coordinator at two of those institutions. So she was also the associate coach in the Men's International Basketball League for the Portland Chinooks. She received her Bachelor's of Science from Portland State University in Liberal Studies, where she minored in English and Black Studies. And she's currently the chair of the NCAA Women's Basketball Rules Committee. So why did you choose to focus your career in sports?
Good morning. And like Carrie, I was a student athlete at Portland State University. So I've always been involved with sports, and I grew up with three brothers, so I had better play sports. But, just my experience in college and enjoying it the way that I did, and I didn't complete it because of injury, but just the passion that I had for it, because my intention actually was to be an English teacher. Oh. Right. And so it was the combination of my passion for sports and my service to young people. And that's really why I got into athletics, because it's an opportunity to do something that I love in both areas. And so I just found that we can have an incredible impact through sport. And it's the only way that when I was younger, I was able to travel and see different parts of the country. And I wanted that for other young people.
I love that. And just a connection with you, I received my master's degree from Portland State University. And I grew up with six brothers and no sisters. So basketball was kind of my thing, as well as other sports. I coached for lots of years. Anyway, that's a nice connection. Thank you so much for that. Liz Darger is in her 8th year working for BYU Athletics and is the Senior Associate Athletics Director, the Senior Women Administrator. She oversees internal operations for the department, as well as serving as a sport administrator for a number of teams. Previous to BYU, she spent 6 years as an assistant basketball coach at UVU, and for 4 years as a counselor, a school counselor and women's basketball coach at Timpanogos High School. Liz earned a bachelor's degree in family science, a master's in school counseling psychology, and is currently finishing her dissertation to complete her doctorate degree, all from BYU. So why did you choose to focus your career in the field of sports?
Thanks for having me, Susan, and great to be here too with Velaida and Kari. It wasn't the plan at first, not knowing what I was going to do coming out of college with a family sciences degree, which I loved that degree. Started volunteering, coaching at a local high school, and then just fell in love with it. Grew up playing sports. I was like better than average. I wasn't an unbelievable player, but I really loved it. But not only playing, I loved watching sports. I loved talking to my brothers about sports. And so it really, when I started coaching, realized that I wanted to be around it. And so school counseling was actually my chosen career in terms of going to get advanced education to do that. But that combination of school counseling and coaching was really a magical combination. And if I was still doing that today, I would be so happy. I loved being a high school counselor and a high school coach. It was a really, really great career. But then had other opportunities to coach full time, which I also relished the chance to get to know a smaller amount of student athletes, but really be with them every single day and help them in life. And then I've loved what I'm doing now in terms of working in athletic administration, which has given me an opportunity to work with broader, more student athletes and have a broader impact across different teams, and also do different parts of sports, not just coaching, but be able to be an administrator and help oversee different areas of the department. And that's been really neat too. So I feel like I've been able to see a lot of different opportunities available working in sports. And but like Velaida said, it's opened up doors for me. It's helped me to meet people I never would have met before. And so it's really been for me. There's so many opportunities to work in sports in so many different aspects and still have those same great things of working and helping young people achieve success.
Thank you so much. I was a junior high teacher many years ago, so I have a good connection with all of you. I love it. Thanks so much. And for those who are listening in, you're welcome to put some questions into the chat or the Q&A on Zoom through the presentation and our discussion today. And we'll be watching those, and I'll post some questions at the end for the last few minutes. So I'd like to shift now. So let's start with Liz on our next question. So what types of careers are available in the world of sports? So generally, sports in general, what are some ideas? And then we'll have all of you give your perspectives.
Yes, in what I do now in helping to oversee an athletic department, a college athletics department, there really are a great number. A lot of people immediately will think of things like coaching and athletic training, but there are things like working in compliance, helping to make sure that our areas are compliant with NCAA rules. There's academic advising, at least in the college sports world. There's marketing and fan experience and social media and videography. There's corporate sponsorships and fundraising. There's broadcasting. I mean, there's just a wide array of different opportunities available. So whether you are an athlete yourself or you're just someone that absolutely loves sports but has other gifts and talents, there's definitely ways to make it happen where you can work in the athletics industry.
Thank you. Velaida.
I would, well, Liz named quite a few of them, in terms of interests, but there's sports nutrition, there's different aspects that you can jump into. There's journalism, there's a lot you can do. There's music. If you're into the music and production of a sports, any type of sports program in arenas, things like that. So there's a multitude of things that you can do. It is, if you enjoy being an administrative assistant, you still grasp on and have relationships with players. So there's so many things you can do that you can parlay into the sports realm.
I was just thinking while you were talking, accounting. An accountant would probably be one. I mean, yeah, anything. Well, IT. anyway, I'm taking probably some of Carrie's ideas, but I was thinking, wow, that would work too. Carrie, any other thoughts you'd like to add there?
Yeah, exactly what Liz and Velaida said. There are so many opportunities. Anything that you're interested in can tie in. I think a lot of people also feel like in order to work in sports, you have to work for a professional team or college team, or in that field. Where really, I was even starting with the Jazz and throughout my experiences, your partners, like we've got some great champion partners that support our team. There's people on those in those areas that also support and those relationships and partnerships. And so even not working for a professional team, you can still be part of the sports world.
I would say sports management, being an agent, there's that piece. There's also being a professional athlete, so there's just a lot of opportunity out there. And like Liz, my intention wasn't necessarily to coach. It moved into that because I was an athlete and because I worked with student athletes, so it's not always your intention to do that, but there's so many, it's like any other business. There's so many job opportunities available.
Thank you, Velaida. I'll stay with you on this next question. So to prepare, and this is kind of a broad question because there are so many careers, but generally speaking, when you think of if someone really wants to go into a career in sports, what associates or bachelors are graduate degrees helpful? What's some advice there or some thoughts of yours?
Well, it depends on, again, what area you want to go into, but leadership is a big piece of it, organizational leadership. If you want to be a coach or you want to be in management, things like that, business degrees. And if you want to, like I mentioned earlier, be a sports agent or broadcasting, journalism, there's communications. Those are a lot of those are a lot of majors that I've seen student athletes go into that want to stay in the sports realm. So there's quite a bit. If journalism, there's writing, English and writing, there's a lot of different associates and bachelors that you could go into to be in this sport.
Thank you. Carrie, any of your thoughts?
Yeah, when I first was trying to decide what I wanted to do in college, for half a minute, I thought I wanted to maybe go to law school. And so I sort of went into the political science realm. But I think now that there's so many more opportunities, I look at what's available even in high school, as far as like preparatory classes and the wide field that there are of classes and majors now. And I think there's just so many opportunities. Social media wasn't a thing when I was going into college, and that's such a huge part of the sports world, business in general right now. So I just think that there's a lot of ways that you can explore, and there's so many different smaller areas within a larger communications, within a larger marketing that really help you focus. So I just think opportunity wise, there's so many great things even at a high school level that will prepare you and help you kind of make those decisions as you get into college. And then I was again fortunate to be able to do my MBA and feel like that's been great. In my post-Olympic pre-Jazz era, I was able to be the business manager at the Utah Olympic Oval. And my MBA really helped with that, just like finance and being able to just have a really wide range of business experience in this world, because really, honestly, sports is a business. I mean, there's so many aspects of that, the team side, but then, everything that goes into organization and tickets and just the logistics of running games and events. So just so many great opportunities. And especially for women, there's a lot of great, it's really opening up for women in a lot of ways.
Thank you. And before I go over to Liz, I wanted to mention that one of the things you do in your job is engaging in community efforts. And in past years, you and I, through the Utah Women in Leadership Project, have partnered on an event specifically for girls in the community to help them understand leadership more broadly. So that I just wanted to mention, that's something that maybe some people don't think of that they might be able to do within a sports context.
Yeah, and we're lucky to have such great relationships with our nonprofit organizations in the community. And so to that point, I did again another opportunity for being part of or in the sports world.
Thank you. And Liz, over to you. Now you're the one to talk since you're back in school again. There are lots of degrees, and what advice would you give thinking back, and thinking about, and our audience, a lot of young women in high school would be watching this today. So associates, bachelors, what would you say?
So I'll put my school counselor hat back on, which I love that hat. What I would say is if if you're in high school and you know you want to work in sports, but you're not quite sure what that might look like, absolutely plan on getting more education. And you may not then know exactly what major you want to go into, and that can be okay. Take a wide range of courses and see what interests you. And then what I really would recommend, which can help you, I think, early along the way, is to try and get some experience or shadow or just talk to different people in the industry. And people, I'll often get asked, well, how do I get your job? That looks really fun. What do I do? And at least in college athletics administration, there are typically two entry points, and one is through coaching and the other is through any other area of the department. And so I'll talk to young people that are first or second year in college, and if they know they want to go the coaching route, okay, that's pretty direct in terms of helping them plug in and get some experience there. But if it's the other side of it, then it's no longer necessarily a discussion on what you want to be doing in 15 years. It might be, but it's like, what do you want to be doing in the meantime that's going to help lead you there? What interests you? Does compliance interest you? Do you love videography? Are you a creative? Do you love people and fundraising and or the financial side or academic advising? Do you want to be working directly with student athletes every single day? And it's hard to know some of those things early on. And because there's so many differences in terms of major, really, really encourage young people to job shadow, to talk to people in the industry, which can then help lead to what they would want to do. And then don't panic. If you end up getting a bachelor's degree in family sciences like me, and then you think, okay, how am I going to make this work? That's one of the wonderful things about our these days is that there's so many opportunities and to continue with extra education and get experience. And so I agree with what's been said in terms of business, MPA, master's degrees in lots of different areas. So education is extremely important, but also very important is connecting and getting experience to really help and getting your foot in the door in terms of working in the athletics industry in some ways is as important as the education is.
I love that. What I'm hearing from everybody is you can really have almost any degree, maybe not any, but maybe, because history may be a good background in some ways. You just move into that industry coming from your interests, and sometimes you're surprised to be in that industry, right? It's that first job out of college. Well, so I'm going to move on to my next question, which is a lot of people these days, whether they have children or not, are really interested in family friendly, right? And that's important. Can a career in sports be family friendly? Let's start with Velaida and then go with Liz, and we'll end with Kari on that one.
Yes, it can be family friendly. I have 3 20-year-olds, 25, 23, and 21. Those are my children who were all involved in sports while I was coaching, while I was a counselor in high school, and a high school coach, just as Liz was. And so, yes, it can be family friendly. There's a lot to it, right? You have to be very diligent with your schedule, your timing with everything. But yeah, it can be a very family friendly. And my kids have known nothing different than being around sports. Than being in this industry, whether I was coaching high school, whether I was coaching men's, or whether I was coaching college. You can do it. It can be done. It's not an easy task with anyone, but it can be something that you can manage. And then when you become the boss, you set the schedule, so it will work for you. So you have to be very diligent about what it is that you want, right? And then work that in with your priority, which is your family. It's very capable. It's very cool.
And I would think with your background, I would think different seasons. So I was running all my kids to sports all the time, but different seasons, definitely you're busier during basketball if that's your thing or whatever. And then you have space in other times of the year as well. Liz, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, people have asked a lot about like work-life balance, and at least for me, it's really been more about work-life integration. Because what a cool industry to work in and have your family be a part of. And like Velaida talked about with her kids that grew up and loved being a part of it. I don't have children, but I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and I'm automatically the cool aunt because a lot of what we do together is centered around sports, and what a neat thing that can be. So certainly it's not really an 8 to 5 kind of thing, although there are some areas of working in athletics absolutely that are. So that just kind of depends on where you go. My current job is not 8 to 5, but there are so many ways to integrate my family and my personal and my friends into my work life as well. And for me, that's been a total win. I mean, that's been something I've loved, is not to separate everything. Like, okay, I go to work and I punch the time clock and then I go home and that's my real life. I love that all parts of my life get to integrate together. And so I consider it very family friendly. And some of that I think has to do too with the organization you work for, and making sure that that it's an organization that really values the personal life, the family life, and wants them to be a part of it. So that might be even more important than necessarily just an industry. It's just that the organization, and what does the organization value? And the Utah Jazz, Weber State University, and Brigham Young University are all organizations that I think very much value family and personal life, and making sure their employees are in a situation where they feel like they get the best of both worlds.
That is such a great point. I mean, people talk to me all the time about business, and I'm like, it really depends on the organization. It depends on top leadership too, and the culture they set. Kari, any thoughts about that? And then our time is moving forward, so I'll give you one more question. Then we'll take a couple questions from the audience.
Well, and to what you just said, and also Liz, again, very much organizational. Even within the organization, departments are very different, right? Like in the world that we live in communications or PR or CR, we have a very different schedule than, say, someone who's working in IT or accounting, or even on the sales or revenue side, right? Everyone's schedule is different. I also think too, when we think of balance, we have to remember balance doesn't necessarily mean equal. And I think both Liz and Velaida kind of alluded to that, where there is sometimes where in season, right? Like there's crazy and you're working, long hours and game nights and all of that. And then in the off season, or, you take time when you can. And to the point of like, again, organizations supporting that is really important. I remember my oldest is in college now, but I remember as a baby when I was doing big events and, I would move into a hotel for a week and I would drag her with me and my husband, and we would stay in the hotel and we'd create a nursery in this, in a little mini living room, and just, have a ton of great support there, which I always appreciated. And, there's been weeks or days where my kids or family don't see me, literally I might, pop in at night and sleep and wake up and I'm gone early the next morning. So again, balance in my mind isn't always equal, but then you have to figure out how to, again, tip the scales again when the time allows for it.
Thank you so much. And Kari, I'll start you. I just want to take just maybe a couple sentences from each of you on this one so we can get to some great questions that are coming in. So my next question really is, people are worried about salaries these days. I mean, you need to have a good salary. Now, we've talked about accounting fields and journalism but in general, is it a pretty good range, especially in some that you can support a family? Any thoughts on pay?
Most definitely. I think you have to advocate for yourself. I think there's a little bit that comes with sports, or especially in professional, where sort of the allure and the shine of working for a professional team or in sports sort of makes people think like, oh, I'm willing to take less because here's this job, that 1,000 people would want or, die for. And I think that you have to still like value what you offer, right? Value yourself, value what you can bring to an organization, and do your homework, do your research. Know going in, what is the range for this job? Where am I going to be when you make those decisions? And then the potential for long-term, like I'll say, some of the young people coming into our organization just out of college, if they're applying for a revenue generating job, there's a little bit more, there's gonna be a bigger salary, there's gonna be a bump there. Maybe with bonus and things like that, than someone coming into maybe a non-revenue generating position. So again, do your homework, but definitely there's opportunity, but also be prepared to advocate for yourself and really kind of demand what you're worth.
And I would say there's definitely a lot of research on gender and advocating for yourself and pay. And so especially if you're in a more masculine like the Utah Jazz is, you gotta think about advocating from the get-go, probably. Liz, let's go to you next. Any quick thoughts there? And then we'll open it up to the audience.
Yeah, just what Kari said, there's definitely a wide range, but, you know, entry level positions all the way to senior level management and coaching. And so I think just like any other, again, because there are kind of little mini industries within the larger organization. I also think it's important for people to consider that often in athletics, there are other perks that come with it that
Yes.
don't replace compensation, but are important to consider if there are things that are important to you. Tickets for you and your family to all the games, for everything. There's a whole lot of really fun swag, and we say in athletics, swag is our love language. So, you know, all the gear, fun gear that, you know, that you could ever hope for you and your family there, you know, and obviously the more typical traditional things in terms of retirement benefits and health benefits, but in the sports industry, there are often some different fun perks that, while are not compensation, are things that are just important to consider in terms of how that, you know, the opportunities that gives you and your family that other industries may not offer.
Thank you. Velaida, any last thoughts on this question?
No, I think both of the ladies really touched on it. And I would also agree that you must advocate for yourself. You have to figure out what is important to you, but you also must work, right? So you're not going to start at the pay that you expect. But if you are diligent, and it's about networking, things that we have all talked about before, diligency, networking, discipline, you know, being able to organize, you know, and manage people, things like that. And once you have, you begin to prove your worth, as Kari alluded to earlier, then yes, there is of course opportunity for you to make the type of money, you know, be financially that you feel that you're in a place that you can care for yourself and your family. Yeah, there's definitely that opportunity.
Thank you. Now there's a number of questions but I'm going to pose a few and just maybe have one of you answer each question so we can get a number of them in. And I love this question. Thank you, Denise, from our audience in asking this, especially as a high school young women, are there, you know, jobs or volunteer opportunities to kind of get your foot in the door and meet maybe a few key people if you really want a career in sports? So which one of you? Okay.
If I can take this one, I'll use an example of a young woman who is now an administrator in the WCC. She began as a high school manager because her want was to be around sports and her want was to be around people. And she was very good at management. So she took that opportunity to become a student manager when I was at the University of Oregon. And she did that for 4 years. That then turned into a personal assistant job for the head coach and moved into being a DOBO. So there's a lot of things that you can do in terms of high school. If you're passionate about this thing and you want to be around sports, again, it's about networking, but you just keep yourself in that arena, in the sports arena, whatever that looks like. Whether it's being a manager, whether it's being a student athlete themselves, whether it's being an assistant coach that you can be with a youth organization, because through those opportunities, you're going to network and meet people who will help you in your future.
I love that. And since you talked about networking, I'll see if Kari or Liz want to pick up this question. In your own career, has networking or making, you know, connections with other professionals really played a role in your career path? I mean, is the skill of networking important? Would one of you, okay, Kari.
I just because, I mean, again, this has been really where my career started. I had graduated, I had taken a little sabbatical with a friend. We went to London and did a little like study, well, it wasn't study abroad because we were both graduated and we were working actually. But I got back and a friend that I'd known from high school called me and said, hey, I'm working for the Olympic Committee. I know there's a job opening. You know, I would love for you to apply. I think you would be a great fit. And that was my in, that was the door opening for me. And then it was all of the people throughout there, again, moving into my next job when I had taken a break to have my children, to raise them a little bit. And then I was ready to go back and it was someone reaching out to me and saying, hey, there's an opportunity. Would you be interested? So absolutely networking. And also I think to the point that was made earlier, like just working really hard and being someone that people felt good about reaching out to or recommending. again, sort of setting that work ethic. And I had the same experience with an intern that worked for me. Such a great kid. He was a BYU student in athletics and interested. And he was so great, so hardworking. And then when I saw opportunities at the Jazz open up, I reached out and recommended him, and he's with the organization now. So again, I think networking is so important. But to that, it's you showing the kind of hard work, the effort that you're going to put forward that's going to make people really remember you. You're going to stand out, and they're going to really want to put you forward.
Thank you. And Liz, I'm going to give you your question, but there was another humorous question, I think, related to your interaction right at the first. Someone said, "Can we please hear Liz cuss?" Maybe not, maybe not. So let's go to your real question here. It sounds like most careers in sports require some strong leadership abilities. What do you see as core leadership skills in the area that you're in specifically, and how can young women in high school start developing those?
I love this question.
It is good.
Great question. First of all, I think sometimes when we think of leadership, we have a very specific idea in our mind of what that looks like. And I think the first thing is to realize that leadership can look different for everybody. And so in particular, as we talk about high school students and high school young women, for them to get to know who they are and what are their strengths and talents and gifts, and then also their areas that they want to improve in. But leadership is influence. And that can look a lot of different ways. And so I think the first part of that is just to have confidence. And that's something that for teenage young women sometimes can be difficult, but knowing, put people around you that help you know and understand your strengths and gifts and talents can help you work on those areas that you may not be as confident in. But having confidence about you and what you have to offer, that you don't have to look like a leader like anyone else. You can do it your way. Definitely communication skills are huge in terms of being able to communicate well with others. Someone that can be a good part of a team. To be a good leader, you need to also know how to be a good follower. But someone that has a vision for what they want to accomplish, and really kind of knowing your why, knowing what drives you. Those are all things. And I think for young women, but really I think that first one is getting to know yourself, getting to know the parts of you and what you have to offer, and that you don't need to do it like anyone else does. You can do it exactly using your gifts and talents to be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish.
I love that. I'm going to skip to our last question, for the one I like to ask, and there's not much time. We're right at the end of our time, so just maybe in a couple of sentences. So Velaida, I'd like to start with you and just say, what are your last couple of thoughts on why you would say to young women, consider a career in sports?
I would say because it's an opportunity to continue working in a field that you're passionate about. It's an opportunity for you to be a role model and make an impression on the younger generation. You know what this opportunity has provided for you, and it's an opportunity for you to give and serve and open up doors for someone else.
Thank you so much. Liz, let's go with you next and then end with Carrie.
Yeah, I think two quick things. One is that it really can just be very fun, and how neat to be in a career. It can be fun. And sometimes the highs are high and the lows are low, but that's what anyone that's involved in sports is. That's what it's like. And so it can be very fun. The other thing is sports can unite people. And we're in a world right now that is so divided, and sports continues to be one of, I feel like, the last areas where people from all different backgrounds, all different life experiences can come together and be united around things. And we need more young women. We need more women involved in that effort for sure.
Thank you. And Carrie.
And to that point, I said earlier, there's a lot more opportunities, but we still have work to do. We need to still keep pushing that. And the more women who are interested in wanting to be in this field, I think will help that. Just, again, the interest and that momentum to continue that forward is really important. And also to, again, you want to love what you do, right? So there are vast opportunities in sports, but make sure it's something that you love and care about, and that's going to be important. And then fit that into the sports industry or wherever you want to be, because working in sports, if you don't love what you're doing, isn't going to be a great experience for you. So make sure that you find something that you love what you do, and then there's going to be opportunities to fit that in the sport world.
Thank you so much. Velaida, Carrie, and Liz, thanks so much for joining us today. And thanks again to the Utah Education Network for their partnership on this series. And also I wanted to thank Denise Call, who is the UWLP production manager, for her work on this series as well. And finally, to all of you listening, remember that you have so many career options. I encourage you to explore all the options and then consider your own individual interests and passions and talents and strengths. All of these combined with the college and university education can help you prepare for an engaging and meaningful profession throughout your life. Thank you so much.